If we appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /Wake Up Call DT. You'll also find us on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com on internet streaming radio all around the world. So however you're connected with the show, we appreciate you being here where sports meets life, and we have a fantastic broadcast set up for you here today inside of these Cafe Kubal studios. So inside of Mon Paz Popcorn.com's What's Poppin', giving us a list of topics for the day. We're going to start the show off with Matt Langel, the head coach of the Colgate Raiders men's basketball team. And we're going to be building out more than we ever have when we talk about Colgate, and really speaking with Matt on his journey, this extensive journey to get to where the team is today, to be a consistent power in the Patriot League and a reoccurring face in the NCAA Tournament. And then in hour number 2, we'll continue our tourney talk with Ross Turetsky, fellow broadcaster and writer, one of my closest friends, in The Drive as we go from the Sweet 16 to the Final Four, and speak on the fact that our brackets are both in really good shape and now they're total red. And then we'll get into the ingredients to success, proudly presented by the wonderful family at Avicolli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. So with all that being said, let's bring in the man of hour number 1 here, Mr. Matt Langel of the Colgate Raiders men's basketball team. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you and I were talking off the air about this, and you know, in order to speak about this journey with Colgate and whatnot and really dive into it, I want to handle this right off the bat because I know that, you know, your name has come up a lot, and, you know, Syracuse fans were talking about you, and Temple and so on and so forth. How do you handle that? I know we've talked about it, you know, off the air, but on the air, how do you handle when your name comes up and you know, coaching searches are happening and whatnot, and you start hearing a lot about Matt Langel and how he would fit here and he'd be good there? How do you kind of view all of that when you wake up in the morning and maybe you got a couple text messages because of stuff on social media and whatnot?
I think there's two things. One, it's flattering. Anytime the media and folks, and it's an interesting time that we're in with everybody having a platform on social media and having, you know, their sentiments being able to, you know, they can make comments or, have conversation on all these platforms. It's flattering because it means that there are folks out there who have recognized or are recognizing all that Colgate basketball has accomplished, all that our players have accomplished, the consistency, how it's been built. That part of it is flattering. The rest of it, though, to be honest with you, Dan, I just try and practice what I preach. I mean, we've been a process-oriented group. I talk to our guys, our coaches talk to our players all the time about, you know, in the world of distractions that can be going on, focus on what you can control. And so for me, that's been just being fully invested in the present, in the circumstances that we're in and what Colgate is trying to do, on our campus with our program, in recruiting, and the rest of those things will take care of itself. Obviously, it's a profession, it's a livelihood. Coaches have representation, and those individuals, I think, oftentimes can be the one who are worrying about, you know, what's out there and what's going on. But again, I'm super grateful for what we have here, for the support from the administration, from the community, for the partnership and what we've been able to build, and that's where my focus is.
So why is Hamilton home now? Why does it fit? Why does it make sense? You and I have spoken about this program many times, but what is it about this community, this school, that just fits you?
I think there's a lot of things. Part of the reason I got into coaching was because I identified the significance and the impact that my coaches and that those years of my life had on helping me become who I am. And so, I love the game. I love the X and O's. I love the preparation. I love the competition. But this is really on a 30,000 foot scale level for me about, having the opportunity to be a part of a group and part of a team of young people who are, putting their individual egos aside, hopefully, Not that they're striving for individual, goals and accomplishment and aspiration, to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so, that's what we have here. And so that's first and foremost. The second part of it is I have a family. I have three wonderful children, 15, 13, and 9. And, my priority is always taking care of them. And this is an incredible environment to raise a family. I mean, everywhere you turn, you've got great role models, student athletes, students. This is a close-knit community, the village of Hamilton. People rally around the school, the school sports, Colgate sports. So for my wife and I, we enjoy being a part of this community, the opportunities it provides, the connections we've made. So there's a lot of really good stuff here that helps make us happy.
And when you look at the tournament, and we're going to go back on this journey with you from start to now. But before we go there, I kind of want to Tarantino the thing and start from where we are in the moment. You get seeded this year, a 15 seed. You pull Texas, a 2 seed, and you get sent out to Des Moines, Iowa. How do you view how the NCAA selection committee has viewed not just Colgate, but the Patriot League and other leagues around the country where it doesn't seem, and this is my opinion, and obviously, your opinion may be totally different, but why Colgate can't be a 12 seed or a 10 seed or a 13 seed or not get sent out to the Midwest in the middle of nowhere. I feel that there's a level of disrespect for many conferences. And when you break down the numbers of it, if you take the quote-unquote Power 5 conferences plus the Big East and just at-large bids alone, you can say that there's years where they account for 26 of the 36 at-large bids, and then there's 26 conferences fighting for 10 spots. So, there's that side of it, and then there's the seeding side of it. And this year has shown that anybody can win. So I would love to get your thoughts on, being a 15 seed, pulling a Texas, getting sent out to the Midwest, because I don't find it to be fair in a lot of cases for not just the Patriot League, but many conferences.
Yeah, I do think, Dan, that I have a little bit different of an opinion than you. I think that there's a lot that goes into that from the selection committee. These are individuals who take great pride in being able to serve on the committee and put great time and thought and effort away from their other responsibilities. Like, that's not a full-time position, right? And so I think that, there's a lot of things that go into it. Sometimes it's the metrics of everything. We lost to Vermont in a close game. We had some other losses in non-conference. We had our chance, look, Florida Atlantic got a pretty good seed from a high mid-major conference as a 8-9, and they've taken advantage of it. But they also won almost all of their games. And again, back to the concept of focusing on what you can control is what we try and do. So then when you look at the location, we've, in all 4 of the NCAA tournaments, we've been in the Midwest. Sometimes it's matchups, sometimes it's locations. I know Princeton, the Ivy League, is a really highly rated conference this season. Yeah. They were the champions of the Ivy League. They got shipped to the West Coast, had to fly all the way to Sacramento as a 15 seed. And, they were able to win 2 games and move on and play the next weekend. So, it's a great honor to be in the NCAA tournament when you come from a smaller conference. And, the reality is we had great success in the Patriot League, but the Patriot League didn't have, as great a success in the non-conference as we have in other seasons. So that there's a lot of things that, go into 15, 14, 13. I think back to when I was a player, and we may have even gotten as high as an 11 seed, but we played in Philadelphia and had a chance to play some of the Big 5 teams. And I think on that year we beat Temple, who was maybe a top 25 team. So, there's a lot of things that, a small margin one way or the other bumps you up or bumps you down.
Yeah.
And, like you said, it's more about the matchup and the situation. And, we played a great Texas team that, I believe would still be playing if one of their really good players, hadn't fallen to an injury. I think they'd have they had a great chance to get to the Final Four even with him being out. So, it's a fragile margin and it's razor thin. And so we don't really, there's no spilled milk or crying over sour grapes over, getting in the NCAA tournament. If you keep doing it and keep playing your best, then, at some point, maybe you'll be able to break through with a win.
Yeah, and your team has had these incredible efforts against these incredible programs, and there's a history to more than the win-loss column. And like you said, break through and get a win. You've been consistent in getting to the NCAA tournament. What positives do you build off of in these games that you have played where you have caused a scare for a lot of teams that thought maybe they had an easy road out of this round and they're going to move forward and whatnot? Colgate has been no slouch in many different scenarios, so I know they haven't turned into victories, and I know coaches say there are no moral victories in a lot of cases, but there has to be positives that you take from in what your program has done in the tournament so far.
No doubt about it. I think, this season, we ended up losing by 20, I think, to Texas. I think one of their players said, even though it was a 20-point margin, it certainly felt like 8 or 9, which is where it was for large portions of the game. They played great. They shot great. And so, I've gotten tons of messaging saying, even though the final result was significant, in some ways it seemed like you were right there, against just as good of a team as you've played in any of the other games. So, yeah, we're a residue of our experiences. So for the guys who return, and the guys who leave, Tucker Richardson, Oliver Lynch Daniels, did they get to achieve everything that they wanted? No, but they had some pretty awesome careers and got some great experiences, to include the heartache of coming up short yet again. And so for the guys that returning, it's part of that experience of knowing that moment and that competition, and what it takes and how hard it is for a guy like Braden Smith, who it's his first NCAA tournament, to know how exhausting that game competing at that level was, and how hard you have to work on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, there's a ton of things, and our name is out there yet again. Is another thing as you're building a program, and individuals like you are recognizing the sustained success and the consistency, and so that can only help in recruiting and everything else that you're doing as you're continuing to build a program.
Here with Matt Langel, the Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You come into the tournament the best three-point shooting team in the nation at 40.7%. Did you expect Texas to be like 90% when they came in? And it was a really interesting game where I think my quote was, Texas was playing Colgate ball in a way.
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing a team like Texas, you're disadvantaged in some ways, meaning they have size and length and athleticism at just about every position that is, would be thought of as better than ours. So you're not going to be able to take away everything that they do. And so going in, there were some situations where, we were going to go under some ball screens and maybe be late to a contested 3-point shot because we didn't want them to get, downhill and attack the paint and score some shots that they've scored at a really high percentage. Their 3-point shooting, although, we recognized going in that they have guys who could make them, that wasn't necessarily their first option. So, if you had told me that, you're going to give up 23 3-point shots and they're going to make 13 of them going into the game, I would have said, yeah, that's going to be really hard for us to overcome. They hadn't done that a lot. They don't do it. They didn't do it since. And so, that was, you got to tip your cap. They really took advantage of what we were giving them and played great. Vice versa. They really worked hard to take away our threes. And so, we didn't get a lot of clean looks. We didn't get that many of them. And again, we probably didn't make enough of them, but I think they really executed their game plan And I thought we did in a lot of ways too, execute our game plan. They just made us pay.
Rodney Terry on the other side of it, before we go back in the history of Colgate here, just your thoughts on what he did. Did you get any time with him? I've gotten to speak with you, and I've gotten to speak with him over the last couple of weeks. A strong man of faith. Seems like his players love playing for him, and we just found out that he indeed is going to be the long-term coach at Texas. So what was the interaction like?
No, just very respectful. Just before the game and briefly after the game, I think, and his team played that way. I mean, they were locked in. I was so impressed, not just how they executed and how they produced, but they didn't take one possession off on both ends. They were working like crazy, as if it were, a championship caliber game, which I think that's how they were prepared. They had coming off a great Big 12 tournament, and they were ready to go. And I think that's usually a testament to the coach, to the preparation. They were very much locked in and focused on the opportunity. So with all that they faced this year, the leadership that he provided, the togetherness that group played with was really impressive.
You mentioned, what I loved how you said it, that we're the residue of our experiences. And you spoke about, despite the loss, how you have these experiences, you have this residue that's on you as you move forward with the players that will be coming back. But you also spoke about Tucker Richardson and Oliver Lynch Daniels. To say that they've meant an incredible amount to this program is a drastic understatement, but I'd love for you to go a little bit further about Oliver and Tucker and their residue that they're going to leave on the program.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Oliver, I'll speak to Oliver first. He went, he's a young man from North Carolina, grew up in the Chapel Hill area, a basketball hotbed, obviously, Tobacco Road. He chose to go to Oak Hill Academy, at the time, the preeminent boarding school for basketball in the country, likes of Carmelo Anthony, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason he did that was because basketball was a passion and he wanted to be around the very best that there were. So he didn't play on the top team. He aspired to be a Division I player, super student, really smart kid, has always done well in school. Went to Houston Baptist. I don't want to speak for him, but I think it was his only Division I opportunity. He came to our prospect camp, because of some other guys we had in the program, it just wasn't going to work out. And after 2 years at Houston Baptist, he decided that wasn't for him. And, he took a leap of faith in coming to Colgate. There were no guarantees. We had, what's proven to be a pretty good team, Jack Ferguson, Jordan Burns, Nellie Cummings, and some guys that ended up doing really, really well in our program. There was no guarantees that he was ever even going to see the floor. And all he did was work every single day, every single night, just constantly. I mean, I think he was in the low 30s, 3-point shooter from his years at Houston Baptist. And he finished the last 2 seasons, I think, around 50% as the top, shooter in all of college basketball. And so, the what he leaves behind, I think, for me is just, what can happen if you put in the work, which is you're putting in the work by yourself, but it's really the impact it has on the team and for the team. And so, he's an unbelievable man in that space. Tucker Richardson, I mean, the best way I can say it, Dan, is, in addition to everything he's accomplished for NCAA tournaments, Rookie of the Year, preseason Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, after the season, Defensive Player of the Year, Scholar Athlete of the Year. It all pales in comparison. 1,800 points. I think it's like something ridiculous, like 800 rebounds and 700 or maybe 700 rebounds, 600 assists, like just off the chart statistics. It pales in comparison to how he carries himself every day, to the type of leader he is, to the type of person he is, to the type of teammate he is. So, the best thing I can say about him is anybody that ever coaches, you're volunteering your time, you're a professional, like everybody deserves to coach a guy like him because it validates what coaching can be and the joy of being a part of a young person's life and their journey.
That comment, and I appreciate those words. That coming from Matt Langel, Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach. I said we would do the Tarantino. way about things. So you came into this program 2011-12 for the Colgate Raiders. So we're looking at a decade plus of experiences here. I want to go back to that 2011-12, 2011 time and the process for you. The process
Mm-hmm.
of where am I going to coach? What's going to be my next step? Why did you choose Colgate then? What was it that enticed you, that made you believe that you could build something in Hamilton?
So two separate answers to that question. So I was 34 years old. I've been an assistant coach at championship programs, 2 years at Penn, 5 years at Temple with my coach and one of my big mentors, Fran Dunphy. And, in those 7 years, I think we won 6 championships, 6 times in the NCAA tournament. So, I started to think about head coaching opportunities. Well, obviously with my background as a student athlete at an Ivy League school, there are certain types of institutions of higher learning that resonate with me. My brother was a Colgate grad. So, I knew the school a little bit. And it's really, really hard. There's only, a finite number of these schools in the country that, are Division I and have head men's basketball coaches. And so, obviously my background was in the Northeast, specific to academics. And so there's even less of those. And so, through the interviewing process, I identified that the Patriot League was one that I thought was pretty balanced in competition, and that, a bunch of different schools had an opportunity to win. Not tons of history and tradition here at Colgate. Obviously, the O'Donnell 4 years went exceptionally well, but I just thought that, by doing things the right way with what I had learned, that, we could build something, and, it wasn't going to be overnight, and it wasn't, but, just step by step and finding good players and the right players for Colgate with the value of academics at this institution and what sports has meant, whether it was the history and tradition of the football program or, some of the successes of other sports that we could get competitive. And same as I said about the NCAA tournament, if you're competitive enough for long enough, then you can break through and have a chance to have those championship experiences.
And you talked about the fact that before you came to Colgate, you were an assistant at Penn as well as at Temple, and went to the NCAA tournament. And you mentioned Fran Dunphy. I would love to dive into that part of your world, Penn and Temple, and how that took a young Matt Langel and molded you to what you are today. And because you mentioned Fran Dunphy specifically, I'd love to know the effect that he had.
Yeah, I don't know anything else, but I also know how great he is. The perspective that he teaches, the values he instills, how he gets his teams to play hard, play together, share responsibility. If you look back at all of his teams, whether it's Penn or Temple or now LaSalle, it's never about the individual. It's always about the group. And, again, the life lessons that he teaches, the consistency in his way. I could go on and on, Dan, for hours, but, he's an icon. He's a legend. If he took a different approach, and was one of those individuals who spotlighted himself a little bit more or allowed more people to pay attention to everything that he's done, there'd be more people who would recognize and value and, and say that he's a Hall of Fame type individual, but because he always downplays what he's accomplished and what he's done. I don't even think he'd get us up on the ladder, when every coach is up there twirling the net around, even when we begged and implored, I don't think he would even get up on the ladder to cut down the nets. That's how much he wants to make it not about him. So yeah, just so many different ways in the game, in life that he's impacted me and so many others. To this day, I still use him as a resource, and anytime we're doing anything of significance or you're faced with hard decisions, I think he's always got great life experience and perspective to offer.
So like you said, you go to him when you need that advice. Is there someone else or a few people that are kind of in that small group? Because I've spoken with coaches before about what's the phone call, that you make. And some coaches have, a few people that they kind of just bounce ideas off of and whatnot. So you have Fran Dunphy. Is there someone else that you would call when it came to a crossroads in your career or going into the tournament or something that you're looking at or an angle on something? Do you have other mentors out there or peers out there that you like to pick the brain of during the season or even after the season?
I'm really grounded with my family. So, my wife, my parents, really, really proud of all that they've been, the support that they've been. They get here to watch our team. So, my children, to be honest with you, so really grounded, in all of those, in those great times and in those challenging times to have their support and perspective because they know me the best. Obviously, and specific to basketball in the industry, you have friends and people you've known for some time that, maybe they're other head coaches or they're not yet head coaches, different people that you've worked with along the way, different people that you've worked with here at Colgate that you stay in communication with. And I think this industry, probably like most, but we're constantly stealing from others. And I mean that in the most complimentary way, like you're sharing ideas and, there's not a lot of secrets. And so you're just trying to grow and be the best version. So, there are people, but it's a lot of different people and nobody specific that really sticks out there.
That coming here from Matt Langel, head coach of the Colgate Raiders men's basketball team, coming off of another trip to the NCAA tournament. Matt, before I let you go here, we have seen the recent consistent runs to the NCAA tournament, but you as a coach, you see things that nobody sees. You're going through stuff in the background behind the scenes that is just your eyes. When did this program, like you said, there was some things in history, but not a lot of things that had, been consistent success or maybe made an identity yet for Colgate. So when did this identity truly start to become what it is today? When was the crossroad, the turning point, in your opinion, through your eyes?
It's a really good question, Dan. And I'm trying to grab some statistics here just to make sure that I'm identifying. Sometimes the years all blend together. I think it was in year 3 and year 4. We couldn't quite get over the hump, but we had the right foundation. We had kind of gotten a group together. They had kind of grown old together. Yeah. 2 of those guys, Pat Moore and Damon Sherman Newsom, are on the coaching staff now. We got to second place. It was, the 2014-2015 season. Finished in second place. Bucknell, I think, was first place. We were literally, like, I remember it, you forget a lot of stuff, but I remember there's a left-handed player from American who was on the line. We had played a 2:00 game and their game was running a little bit late. We were watching it on the streaming service. If he had made that foul shot, we would have been tied for first place in the regular season. And so I felt like in those 2 years, we were awfully close. And again, going back, what I said about the NCAA tournament, what I said about our program now, like, if you're process based, the goal is to compete for championships. And if you do that frequently enough, you're going to win. So we were kind of right there. We lost a lot of close games in both of those years. I think both of those teams had losing records. But we were like top 200, analytic ratings, and our offense was in a good place. And we just didn't get over the hump we got upset in the semifinals at home against a good American team. And, then we took a couple steps backwards because we graduated those old guys and had some younger guys. That doesn't mean that the culture wasn't in place. I think in a lot of landscapes in today's day and age where everything is so result driven that, maybe they would have made a coaching change, and our institution, our leadership didn't. They recognized what we were doing, how we were doing it. And so, I think it was kind of in those 2 years, even though we were still a few years away from winning our first championship and getting to the championship game, that I recognized, okay, we're on the right path. We just need to stay there and keep working and keep growing. And as this group gets old, maybe we'll get back to that situation and try to find the right piece, the right buttons to push. And it's worked out.
So you talk about that, year 3, year 4, and here we are over a decade later with the success of this program. And I've said it before, but I want to be clear about this. You have made it to the NCAA tournament in 4 of the last 5 years. The only year that you didn't in the last 5 years was COVID. So it's like, it's 100% for the opportunities that you have. It's been 100% for the last 4 years that there was an NCAA tournament. So I think 40.7% from 3 going into the NCAA tournament, leading the country, not bad. But 100% of the time of the last 4 years making it to the NCAA tournament outside of the COVID year. That is building something incredible. So I asked you where the turning point was, where that moment was that you really felt like things were going in the right direction. But there's a difference between success and consistent success. You have built consistent success. How do you do it? Especially in a world with the transfer portal where you might bring in a guy that not a lot of people looked at, didn't have a lot of offers, not a lot of respect, maybe didn't go to the right prep school or this, that, or whatever. And they play 2 years at Colgate, and Texas comes looking, and Kansas comes looking, and maybe Syracuse comes looking, and Indiana and whatnot. You've built success, but consistent success at a time period where NIL and transfer portal is wreaking havoc on a lot of programs. How do you build consistent success in general, and how do you do it when there's college basketball free agency?
It starts with the people. We've had incredible coaches who pour themselves into their work and into our guys. And then we've had student athletes who very much value what we are. And when I say we, like what their education at Colgate is and what that means for the rest of their life, what our program is, how close they are as a group with one another. Nellie Cummings could have left 2 years ago, but he chose to come back. Jack Ferguson, same thing with his COVID year. Tucker Richardson and Oliver Lynch Daniels did it this past season. So, that speaks to them as individuals. Obviously, there's a lot of work by the guys and the staff and the support group at Colgate to create a situation that they want to be in, that they take pride in, that they're thinking about their legacy and their opportunity to get back to the NCAA tournament and continue to achieve what they have. But it's them, it's the individuals who value, like what you said, instead of, thinking the grass is greener somewhere else, they recognize what they have, how special it is, what it means to their life. That this place and their teammates and their coaches have helped them get to these positions and have these successes, and they want to take advantage of it for as long as they possibly can.
Couple final pieces. When you recruit now as a coach, are you transfer portal, prep, high school, looking at everything? Because some schools are transfer portal driven now. Some of them are not really looking at the transfer portal as much. Some of them are 50-50. How do you recruit now? Has it changed you, adjusted you? What has it done?
We're always trying to evaluate not what other people are doing, but be aware of what others are doing, but do what's best for us. Transfers have been an important part of our program. If you look back over the history, Jordan Swapshire, Ethan Jacobs, Austin Tilts. The list is long before the current batch of Oliver Lynch Daniels, Nellie Cummings. But the transfer world has changed in that there's no more year in residence. And so how that impacts us and our school and transferable credits, we've got to evaluate all that as we move forward. Prep school has been good to us, guys, taking an extra year of development before they get their 4 years in the Patriot League. Keegan Records, Ryan Moffitt, Tucker Richardson, just to name a few. So yeah, and the brand is national. I mean, Braden Smith had a great freshman year. He's from Seattle, Washington. That's not around the corner. But Colgate resonates. He went to a really good high school that recognized the value of Colgate. Obviously, he loves hoops and the success that the program and some of the players had before as small guards resonated with him. So yeah, just looking everywhere and trying to turn over every stone and find the right guys for Colgate. Again, never compromising those things that I shared before, those characteristics and those traits that have made our team special.
So final piece is a little fun. I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but how would you describe yourself on the sideline? Every coach has a sideline personality. They have the way that they deal with the refs. They have how far they go out onto the court and how far they come and, maybe drink some water off the bench of the other team. So how would you describe the radius of Matt Langel and the attitude of Matt Langel on the sideline?
Yeah, my thought on that is I need to do what's best for our team. Certainly, I've gotten one technical foul in my 12 years, and I felt terrible about it because that means I gave up some points in that game, and I've never scored any points. And so joking a little bit, that's kind of my thought on the process. I need to keep a demeanor that's going to help me help the team. So if I'm in a maniacal state and yelling at the referees and running all around and jumping up and down, then I don't know if I'm evaluating the game and watching the game to help our guys, figure out what's going to work on offense and some of the adjustments we need to make. So with that being said, there are certain times where, the team needs a little fire and needs a little pick me up and needs a little boost of energy. And so whether that's, trying to incite the crowd or implore them to give a little bit more, or run a little bit harder, or affect the game in that capacity, then I need to do that. But I try and stay in the present, not worry about what just happened or a call or a foul or a missed opportunity or even a mistake by our guys. There's times to try and correct those in timeouts and talk about it, but certainly in game, just trying to stay present and stay focused on what I can do to help the guys, find the result that they want.
And the last piece of that NCAA tournament, there's something to it. There's something to the experience of it, to sitting at the dais and be able to have that NCAA logo behind you while you have these conversations. What has it done for you personally and for your family, and the excitement that comes from the fact that you're one of 68 schools out of 360 plus that gets to sit at that table?
Yeah, I've been able to be a part of the NCAA tournament now. I think 12 years, if my math is correct, and it is incredible. It's incredible for everybody. Most importantly, the players. It is such a special experience to know that everybody sets out for this, not just on this given year, but since the time you're a little boy. That you're watching it, my boys are watching it on TV. So all of those years, and now you get to be a part of it. And so every single aspect of it is just extraordinary. There aren't words to explain what it is, the emotion of being a part of it as a player. But it's not just a player, it's the families of the coaches, it's the people of the institution, it's the alumni, it's the community. I mean, I was just watching Coach McDermott, his post-game speech that's gone a little viral with the Creighton men. The folks who care about Colgate, wherever they are, they stop what they're doing and watch Colgate basketball. And it gives them, it affects their emotion. It gives them a sense of pride, a sense of connection with other alumni. And it's just special. I don't know how else to say it. And so, it's something that I will never take for granted. Because, as consistent as we've been, you never know when that next chance is going to take. You talked about how hard it is for small conferences and mid-major programs to even get a chance to have that experience one time. And so, it's something that we take a lot of pride in and certainly never take for granted.
Colgate Raiders head coach Matt Langel. Matt, as always, I appreciate you. I'm sure you used to on these interviews when they pop you in, they give you like 2 minutes. I don't do that here. We give Colgate a giant spotlight because you deserve it. So thank you for your time as always, and for being so candid and so open with me in so many ways. I love telling Colgate's story, and I'm so happy that you're in our community. So thank you for all you do, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Thanks, Dan. Stay well.
All right, you too. That coming here from Matt Langel. Take care. That coming from Matt Langel here on the broadcast on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And, that's what we're about here. We are about that. We're about not only giving a voice to Colgate, which deserves, and it's tough for me to say, a voice to the voiceless, because they have a voice, but it's not always you getting that spotlight, right? The Princetons don't get the spotlight if they don't win. And, Colgate doesn't get that spotlight unless they win. And in a lot of cases, that happens. And it's not fair, Mitch Henderson of Princeton should have the opportunity to get the spotlight. Matt Langel of Colgate should have the opportunity to get the spotlight. Tobin Anderson, FDU, should have the opportunity to get the spotlight. Even Coach McDermott that he brought up from Creighton. I mean, Creighton's in the Big East, and I feel like there's still some people that don't know that, and so it's great to see these programs win. And when you win, and these coaches know this, and the players know that, when you win, people show up. When you win, everybody wants to interview you. But it's when you don't win, or you're building, like he said, year 3, year 4, where we were almost there, but it doesn't show up in maybe the win-loss column or how we ended the season. Telling the story of the journey has always meant more to me than telling the story that everyone wants to tell. When you win, the room is full. And I had a coach tell me this a while ago. They said, yeah, now that we're winning, there's like 20 people want to interview me, and I'm not going to turn them down. Because, you're not going to turn down free publicity. But, she said, you've been with me for all this time. You've been with me for years. She said, I'll do the interviews with them, but you can come sit in my office whenever you want to. And you have my cell phone number and you can call me. So, I value that. I value that, and I value those experiences. And I bring that up because it's a personal thing to me that Princeton, Colgate, FDU, St. Bonaventure, that these schools, FAU, I mean, they're in Conference USA, they're going to be in the American. How much respect did they have coming into the tournament? So, it's so important to me to have that be the case.
I got a good feeling about this.
And so I guess music plays in the studio sometimes. I got a good feeling about this was what was playing. So thank you, God, for that pleasant humor. So I do have a good feeling about Colgate. So, but I think that I have no idea whose song that is at all. But, I do believe that when you see potential and you see strength and you see people working, I mean, that's it. When people work hard and do things for the right reasons, and they have morality and values and togetherness and teamwork and, faith and hope and love and joy, and they have fun with each other. Yeah, I want to cover those teams when they're 8-14 and when they're 25-0. Yeah, Greg, how timely was that? Maybe that's the annoying moment. I mean, is it the annoying moment of the week? It was perfect. I got a good feeling about this. Now I'm going to look up that song. That song just shamelessly plugged itself on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And it was perfect because I'm talking about the good feeling I have about these programs. I got a good feeling about this started playing in the studio. YouTube, Facebook, don't be coming at me for copyrights because I did not play that on purpose. So Yeah, but oh, life is funny. But it's so rewarding to see people like Matt Langel win, and to see places like Colgate win, and Hamilton, New York win, and these alumni win. And why is it cool? Because it's in upstate New York, and and it's just different. And I don't, maybe if you're not from upstate, maybe you don't get it, maybe you don't feel the same way. But when St. Bonnie's wins, and when Colgate wins, and Cornell wins, and Binghamton wins, it feels different. And it's really like its own special thing. And to see the consistency of Matt's program, they've made it to the NCAA tournament 100% of the time in the last 5 years when there was a tournament. They've made 4 of the last 5 years. The only year they didn't make it's not because they didn't make it, it's because COVID happened. So they made the tournament 100% of the time in the last 4 years. They're blue blood programs that can't say that stuff. I mean, there's programs out of history that can't say. Michigan wasn't in the tournament this year. So think about that. Colgate's consistent in a way that goes beyond some teams that are Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, SEC, and Big 10 and whatnot. I mean, maybe not the Big 10 since they led almost the entire conference in the tournament, but it's I'm not a Big 10 hater. I am a do not give an advantage to a conference, especially. I mean, did they work for it? You know what I mean? Did the Big Ten with 13 losses, did those teams really earn a bid in the NCAA tournament? Or did they get a bid because they're in the Big Ten? If they weren't in the Big Ten, would they be in? That's the question. My answer, probably not. Probably not. And I fight for the fact that there's other teams around the country that deserve an at-large bid and could wreak some havoc. So think about it like this. If Merrimack wasn't going through the 4-year move from Division II to Division I, where they're not allowed to play in the NCAA tournament, which is a stupid rule and needs to be changed. Think about this. If Merrimack was not under that 4-year purgatory, they would have made the tournament and Fairleigh Dickinson wouldn't. And then we wouldn't have had the second 16 seed in the history of the tournament win. It would have never happened. Fairleigh Dickinson would have never made the tournament. So, to me, that sticks out. Like, that is a prime example. And you might say, well, Dan, that's a fluke. No, it's not. Tobin Anderson's a good coach. Fairleigh Dickinson had awesome players who banded together, who believed in something that a lot of people didn't believe in. Belief without evidence, right? They didn't have evidence that they were going to do it. They went into that game with teams going up against the record was 150 wins for the 1 seed and 1 win for a 16 seed. UMBC against Virginia a few years back. There was no evidence, but there was belief. There was faith. There was passion. There was fun. There was desire. There was want to. There was coaching. There was recruiting. There was scheming, identifying, adjusting, evolving. And they won. But they would have never gotten in the tournament, because the NEC wasn't going to get 2 seeds in the tournament. So, I'm going to fight for these programs like Colgate, because somebody needs to fight. Everybody wants to interview him when he wins. Everybody wants to talk to Matt Langel at the end of the season when they win the Patriot League and they go to the NCAA tournament. But are you talking to Matt Langel 8 games in at the beginning of the season? Are you following up with him 15 games in, 20 games in? Are you talking with him about year 3, year 4, when he saw the turning point, when it wasn't visible to the naked eye? Those are the stories that I want to tell. Because Rome was not built in a day. And everybody comes to you when you find the diamond in the rough. But how many people are with you digging through the rough to find the diamond for 5 years until you actually think you might have saw a glimmer of a diamond? So, telling Colgate's story, it's fun for me. I love it. And I want to thank Jordan Doroshenko and Matt Langel and everybody past, present, and future at Colgate that's given me the opportunity to have this. And like I said to Matt, when you come on Wake Up Call, you're not 2 minutes, hey coach, it must be fun to be in the tournament. No. It's, hey coach, tell us a story. Give us a time capsule of Colgate. Something that can live on forever. And that true fans can come back to and really get to know you, your program, and your why. So, I love it. We just spent an entire hour on Colgate. Tell me how many other broadcasts are going to do that. But we will. Because I want to. And because they deserve it. And the fact that Matt Langel is still at Colgate, building for the future of Colgate in 2023, that's great for Colgate. It says a lot about the administration. It says a lot about the university. It says a lot about the community and how they not only treat Matt, but how they treat Matt's family, his kids, and his wife. And that goes a long way because I'm not a head coach, but being around as many head coaches as I've been and building a lot of friendships over almost 2 decades now, I would say that your family life, your kids' happiness, your spouse's happiness, the response of the community and the treatment by the community. You're in Hamilton, New York. It snows. It gets cold. You know, it's not a giant city. And that for some people can affect you, but to the people that really, and this is how you know that Matt Langel's different. When you're in a small town and you don't have those big city lights and amusement parks and all this stuff to go to and this, that, and whatever, when you don't have the New York City, the Orlando, the Los Angeles, the Houston, the Charlotte, and so on and so forth, that when you're there, you're there. And I'm not saying a coach that's coaching in any of those places aren't there to be specifically at this school. But you got to think about a school like Colgate. When you're in Colgate, you're in Colgate. You're there to be with Colgate, right? And his passion of over a decade and his love and his work ethic and desire to build the brand of Colgate, he's always going to be remembered for that, no matter what happens down the road. You know, it speaks volumes to him and what matters to him. Because if you're a head coach right now and you could go to a bunch of different places, there's a lot of things that go into it. Some coaches are like, I want to be by the beach, right? Oh, if I coach in Orlando, I can go to Disney all the time. I go to Universal, you know. If I'm in Texas, I get that barbecue. If I go to Tennessee, I get that style of barbecue. If I go to Nevada, I'm by Vegas. You know, when you're in Hamilton, New York, and you're in this community, you're maybe the biggest light, or definitely one of the biggest lights, is Colgate. You are the skyscraper of Hamilton, New York. So instead of going to a place where you're around a bunch of skyscrapers, you're going to a place where you are the skyscraper and you're building it. That's got to be a really cool experience. And I'm so happy that Matt shared that experience with us here today. It means a lot to me. So I always appreciate his time, and I hope you did too. We'll take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We'll be back, hour number 2, NCAA Tournament, from the Sweet 16 to the Elite 8 to the Final Four. I told you before this tournament started, it is wide open. And it did not disappoint, as 3 of the 4 Final Four this year have never once before made it to the Final Four. Miami, FAU, San Diego State. Mind you, the Mountain West has never sent any of their schools to the Final Four. So that's history upon history. And then you have UConn, who hadn't been anywhere close in recent years and gone through multiple coaching changes. So as much as they're a blue blood of history, Dan Hurley's doing something special there too. It's going to be a great Final Four. And the road to get there can only be happening on the drive. With Ross Turetsky and myself, Dan Tortora. It happens after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Avicolli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicolli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicolli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. I hope you're having yourselves a terrific morning this morning, and cannot thank you enough for being here with the show every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You're with us on Facebook.com and YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. You can hang out with us, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you're connected with the show, we thank you so much for being a part of it every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. With that being said, we're here in hour number 2. We got a lot of great stuff coming up with you on the broadcast, so very excited for the opportunity to bring you a continuation of the conversation of the NCAA Tournament that we started with Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach Matt Langel in hour 1. Here in hour 2, the only way to go through the road to the Final Four is to take the drive with Ross and I. And we're going to be talking with Ross Turetsky, fellow broadcaster, writer, and one of my best friends. I consider him a brother even more so than a friend. And he's going to be joining me in just a little bit here as we continue our conversation with our brackets totally in red now, as most brackets are. So a lot of good stuff coming up. What did Greg say? Where are you and Ross at with Ted Lasso? Season 3 started 2 weeks ago. Quite good. Yeah. Well, Greg, I said on the show yesterday, Two Mics No Filter with Andrea, there's a stark difference between Apple TV and Apple TV Plus. And when you're working with Verizon and they say, you got free Apple TV for a year. And I say, fantastic. And then I go on there and realize it's not Ted Lasso, I believe. It's not any of that stuff. It's not any of the good shows. It's not any of the great movies. It's the dollar bin from Walmart. Though it's those movies. And it's no disrespect to Walmart. I'm just painting a picture for you. You know the dollar bin. And so, like when the movie's not called Tornado, but it's called Spinning Cloud. Or, the movie's not called Cinderella. It's called Glass Slipper. And so, I mean, that... Yeah, man, it's crazy. It really is crazy. So where am I at with Ted Lasso? I'm trying to figure out if I'm really going to buy Apple TV just to watch this, or if there's a 14-day free trial or whatever it may be, because I don't want to add anything else to what I have right now. I currently have changed from one provider to another when it comes to the non-cable cable, when you look at Fubo TV and YouTube TV and whatnot. So I've been going through the process of figuring out what I want to do and what I want to pay for. And I don't know if I want to add anything else onto that. So, we all get into this when it comes to getting rid of our cable. We're trying to pay less. And you look at these prices and you're like, oh, I'm paying more or the same. And that's not what I want, right? I want to pay less because cable is way too expensive, and it shouldn't be. And cable should be doing deals all over the place to keep their customers and not being like, oh, screw you. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you're not with us, so whatever. And I don't understand that at all. I think cable providers should be doing everything they can, not to cheapen themselves, but to make themselves more affordable. There's a difference between being cheap and being more affordable. I don't know why cable has to be so expensive, but don't put people in a situation where it's like, well, cable's $69.99 and one of these other brands is $64.99. How about somebody's $49.99? How about that? We don't need to be killing people over killing these prices and whatnot. Let people watch stuff that they want to watch and enjoy stuff that they want to enjoy, and not charge them an arm and a leg for it. I had a great deal with Disney Plus, and I had to just renew it after 3 years, and the deal now sucks. So it's not fun to go through this process with these streaming services, because I remember was there a day when they cared about the customer? I don't remember when that day was, but it was a long time ago. So it would be nice if they did. Ross said, Greg's asking Ross a question. So yeah, Ross will be joining in just a couple minutes here, so we'll hold that question. Got another thing here. They do offer a trial. Might want to wait a few weeks for season 3 to finish so you can binge it all. See, that's my kind of thinking, Greg. That's a good kind of thinking right there. I did say one time I got Paramount Plus, literally, because it's connected to CBS. So I got Paramount Plus, literally, genuinely, this is the only reason. I wanted to watch the Army-Navy game. So I got a 7-day free trial. I watched the game, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. So, I wanted to watch Army-Navy, and I didn't have cable. So, and I love the Army-Navy game. I do. Because it's so, it's our country. And it's people in our country that are protecting not only our freedom, but the freedom of the world. That's what you hope for and you pray for. They're protecting everybody. So it's a really beautiful thing to watch that Army-Navy game. It's right around Christmas time. It's usually around the time I get my Christmas tree. So there's a lot of nostalgia and memories to that in history with my family and I. Typically, not on purpose, we would always go get the Christmas tree the weekend of the Army-Navy game. And then after we got the tree and we strapped it to the roof of our vehicle, we would always go to whatever town we were in, whatever small town in New York, and we would get hot chocolate and get lunch, my mom and my dad and I, and it was so much fun. So the Army-Navy game has a very special place in my heart, and that's why 7-day free trials and 14-day free trials are a beautiful thing. So with that being said, here's somebody on the show who's not a 14-day free trial. He has been my friend for many, many years, and I never took out a free trial or a free subscription or a pay later when it came to Ross. We have been friends since 2008. We are both Marywood University grads, and my student loans are totally paid off. So what up, girl? How you doing? And very excited about that. So I'm looking back at my time with Ross, we became friends through adversity, tragedy, and strife, pain. And our friendship was literally built out of one of my friends who I look back on our friendship and I look back on our connection. Our last conversation we had with each other is that I wanted to be a better friend to her. And she was all about friends. She was all about bringing people together. Being in college, in the early 21st century playing card games and, playing, just literally coming up with games, sitting together. And I miss those moments, and I really don't think I value them as much as I should have when you're in a dorm room and, everybody's sitting on two beds and you got like 14 people in the room or 7 people in the room, and you're just hanging out and spending time together and going to get pizza and laughing and joking and listening to music and having deep conversations and philosophical moments. It's such a beautiful thing. So shout out to Sarah George and her beautiful spirit in heaven. And I know she's with us all. And, Sarah in her incredible power as a friend, she cared so much about bringing people together and friendship. And she brought Ross and I together even from heaven. And so that shows the great power and love that she has for people, that she brought us together as friends even when she wasn't physically here. And you go from 2008 to 2023, 15 years of friendship. And this dude is my brother. I love him to pieces. We are not friends. We are brothers. And I consider him my brother, my family, arm in arm. I'd do anything for this guy. I would go down to Mexico and run from a drug cartel with this man. And that's not a desire or a wish. So people, please understand that. Not trying to do it, but
that sounds like arson and coke.
Yeah.
When I hear about drug cartels, we're running at the border. I think it sounds like another fun adventure of arson and coke.
It's a perfect adventure of arson and coke. Maybe it's me, planting the seeds, but I mean, maybe this is my moment, like Marvel, to tell you something so many years in advance and then let you watch it happen. But yeah, Ross and I, he's one of the best people on the planet. Legitimately, one of the people in a very tiny circle of my world, and I love him to pieces. And the more that I'm doing this extended intro, the more I'm sitting here going like, why don't I just get in the car and go down there and see him now? Because it's been too long. So with that being said, buddy, how are you?
Very good. And I also want to tell you, Jeremy! Come on down. Let's watch some John Wick Chapter 4. Let's watch some fun stupid action movies like we did back in the day. Cinemark. We'd watch the 10:30 right before 11 o'clock when they would start closing the lobby. Sometimes they'd close it early and we would be pounded on the glass to let us in. But we'd watch those late night movies. Those were some great fun memories. And so whatever you would like, come on down. Let's watch some movies. Let's make some ruckus in Scranton, Dallas, Wilkes-Barre, wherever in the immediate NEPA area.
Yeah, no, I love it, and that's literally what I want to do. When you have a good friend like Ross, the reality is it doesn't matter what movie we go to see. It's more of the experience of us going to the movie and commentating and laughing and joking. I'm a firm believer that if wherever Ross and I are, comedy ensues, deep discussion follows, and there's always an idea for something to be done. So, I don't know why, he's like my Spielberg. Like, that's how I look at it. He's this incredible mind of ideas. So I sit here today saying to myself at 37 years old, we do the drive together and we do a lot of things together, but why are we not doing more? So, I mean, is this the moment, Ross, March 28th, 2023 at 10:18 in the morning, that we make a commitment to do more projects together?
I would love to. I know a while back we worked on a screenplay called Trojan Wars about a silly antics of our youth in our 20s. So I'm like, why not make up more projects, whether it be arson and coke, whether it be something else, a screenplay, a sports show, whatever it is, a comic book show, whatever it is, then definitely be up for more projects with you, buddy.
All right. And so my ideas are cooking. We're going to do it, and I'm excited to do that. Today we're doing the drive. We are bringing you through the tournament. There is a road to the national championship, but that road can only be taken if you're on the drive with Ross and myself, and the capital D, capital R in drive for Dan and Ross. We've been doing this for many, many years, and now it is our time to jump back in the car, get back on the drive, and... Are
you sure we didn't jump over a cliff with our brackets? Because I think our brackets have been torched to smithereens, kind of like Joe Pesci's his bald hair in the Home Alone movie when Kevin McAllister got sweet revenge against him. I have my bracket right in front of me. There's just a lot of red marks all over it, just like my teachers at school when they ripped apart my schoolwork. And I just have a lot of incorrect predictions right now. I only had two number one seeds go to the Final Four, and it turned out none of them made it, but at least I didn't have all four. We don't even have any top three seeds in the Final Four this year in Houston, Texas, starting this Saturday night. It is a free-for-all. It's basically all underdogs, and even if they are pretty big programs, it's teams that you would never expect when you filled out your bracket, unless you go to that college or have a significant other or a relative that goes to that college, you would never have picked those brackets. I saw the small percentage of people who picked this correct Final Four. No one's bracket is perfect, but even the people who pick this Final Four is probably a little bit more than a handful, percentage-wise, probably less than that. So, yeah, I know you're like, let's get back in the car. I think the car is driven over a cliff. We're in the water. We're trapped. We're trying to escape. We need rescue. 911, please call. We need our rescue. And I don't know how we're going to get back in the car to go back to the drive, because this bracket, it's just what makes March Madness so exciting. I love it because it's so unpredictable. You can't script this stuff. You have no idea what's going to happen when this tournament starts. And it truly is the madness of March, because I would have never guessed in a million years that San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, Miami, and UConn are our four teams left standing. And one of those teams will be cutting down the nets on Championship Monday, this upcoming Monday, April 3rd. Would have never fathomed it when we predicted at the beginning of the drive a few weeks back.
That's the applause that I carry for the teams that made it. This is our bracket. And that is the absolute reality. If you want to know on the drive, this is exactly what our bracket sounded like. From the Sweet 16, Ross and I had 3 of our Final Four still in the Sweet 16. After those rounds of the Sweet 16 into the Elite 8, this is exactly what the drive sounded like in real time. And so the brackets were done. I was feeling good, and as you know, Ross and I took different roads here on the drive too.
You had your pick. You had Houston no matter what, just like the draft day.
Yeah.
Monte Mack no matter what. It looked like it was the perfect scenario. And
yeah.
who would have guessed it? At this point, I'm rooting for Florida Atlantic because out of the 4 teams, they're all pretty good teams, but no one expected really any of them to get there. Miami and UConn are bigger programs, still weren't expected to get here. San Diego State, I don't think anyone expected to get here. But Florida Atlantic, by far, is the biggest underdog in this tournament left. I had them losing to Penny Hardaway's Memphis Tigers in round 1. So not only did they not lose that game, and they almost did, they lost. They won that game in controversy. Penny Hardaway's throwing his bottle of disgust, trying to call timeout. Florida Atlantic is in the Final Four, and by far, of these 4 programs, they're the biggest Cinderella story left. So if you really want madness and chaos of March, I would love to see Florida Atlantic go all the way at this point. They need 2 more wins. I'm hoping they can win on Saturday and get to the championship game on Monday night. But one shining moment, they're all crazy stories how they got here. But how the heck is Florida Atlantic in the Final Four? And Kansas State's coach, after he lost to them over the weekend, came into the locker room and said, no one can beat you at this point. That you right now have the mental edge over any team. You can compete with any team, no matter if they're one of the best teams or not. You can beat anyone. So why not go out there and win the whole damn thing at this point, win the championship?
Yeah, I mean, we started the Sweet 16 like this, and we ended the Sweet 16 like this. I mean, I was so excited to tell everybody, you know, Ross and I took different roads on the drive to the Final Four, but we had the same, and we don't know this ahead of time, so we don't look at each other's brackets. We had the same Final Four, the same championship game, and the same champion, and almost the same score. And so we were looking great with 360 plus schools, 68 make the tournament. Of the 68 that make the tournament, we had 3 of our Final Four in the Sweet 16 in Gonzaga, Alabama, and Houston. And then Alabama dropped out, and in the same day, Houston dropped out. And shortly after, in the Elite 8, Gonzaga dropped out. And I just remember sitting there going, well, That's how fast life could change. And so, I mean, that, it was a beautiful thing. It was a wonderful moment. Ross and I were standing out there with the Hawaiian leis over our necks, and there was applause and confetti. We were waving to everybody. We were doing that wonderful Prince wave.
We were just on the air together 8 days ago. So for what happened, and it ended up happening within the week, what happened from last Monday when we were on the air for the drive to now, the whole tour has been upended and it's crazy, but I love it. But it's still insane because, yes, I was about to pat myself on the back. And I'm like, oh, we have Houston no matter what. Houston, Alabama are in. I thought Marquette was going to keep making a nice big run. Creighton was making a long run. So, Gonzaga was making a crazy long run after they were able to win their big win over UCLA to get to the Elite Eight. But then, who would have guessed that UConn destroyed Gonzaga? And then I was reading about how their star center that you got to interview, who came back for his senior year at Gonzaga, he might come back for another year. Like, they hugged him and they said that could be it. He technically has another year of eligibility. I feel like he has his AARP card. He's about 75 years old, like college basketball. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't understand because I really thought he was going to leave last year. Then he came back this year for a swan song to finish unfinished business. And win a championship at Gonzaga with Mark Few. But been able to get over the top once come close. Now they're like, oh, there's still a possibility he might come back for another year. I'm like, this is madness. But hey, whatever floats their boat. It's fun. It's exciting. And who would have guessed it? I don't know. Like, at this point, I don't know who you're rooting for out of these 4 teams. But I got to say it's Florida Atlantic. But San Diego State, that's wild. And I know you want to give your props to Miami, an ACC school who you face off with Syracuse all the time. So I know you're happy with that. An ACC school got represented. And then UConn. It's the true return of UConn in the Big East, a school that was a powerhouse under Jim Calhoun and then went down the toilet. Hasn't been to the Final Four since 2014, and now under their new head coach, they're back to prominence. They might be one of the favorites to win the national championship at this point, and the Big East is getting better and better. And now, as we said last week, Rick Pitino, controversial or not, he's going to join the Big East again, now be the St. John's head coach in New York City. So that's going to be very competitive. So it's just a lot of fun stories. But yeah, at this point, who would have guessed? But I'm hoping Florida Atlantic just pulls off a miracle and just wins this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and painting the picture of this, as Ross and I have this discussion on the drive as we continue through the madness of March in the NCAA tournament, it's been wonderful, crazy. I mean, this is literally Heath Ledger's Joker of a March Madness season. He got what he wanted. He got it. He got chaos. he got chaos. And one of the greatest lines ever in any movie is by Michael Caine, who played Alfred, when Christian Bale was Shane. When Christian Bale was Batman. When Michael Caine said, "Some men cannot be bought, reasoned with, or negotiated. Some men just want to watch the world burn." And that is this tournament. That is this tournament. It is, it's FAU is a 9 seed. UConn is a 4 seed. Miami's a 5 seed. San Diego State's a 5 seed. We look at all of these teams that made it in. San Diego State has never made it in to the Final Four in the history of their university. The Mountain West Conference that they play within has never sent a single team within their entire conference grouping of schools to the Final Four. On top of that, FAU has never won an NCAA tournament game. This year, they won an NCAA tournament game in the round of 64. Then they won in the round of 32 for the first time ever. Sweet 16, first time ever. Elite 8, first time ever. And when you really break it down, you say FAU had never won an NCAA tournament game. Then you say they've never advanced to the round of 32. So you have the fact that they advanced to it, win or lose. So they made it to the round of 32, that's a first. They won the round of 32, that's a first. They made it to the Sweet 16, first appearance, won the Sweet 16, first time ever. Made it to the Elite 8, first appearance, won in the Elite 8, first time ever. Made it to the Final Four, first appearance. All of that is history under Dusty May. Then you go to Miami, and you think about Miami and Miami's rich history of athletics, and you got to check this, and maybe you didn't believe it, because I didn't believe it, that Miami had never ever once in the history of that university, the U, they have never made it to the Final Four. And here's Jim Larinaga, 73 years old. If he wins the championship, He will be the oldest coach to win an NCAA tournament championship for men's Division I basketball. Then you look at UConn and how UConn went through coaches like underwear for a certain amount of time after they had such great success under Jim Calhoun forever and a day. And Kevin Ali had some moments, but the team was losing. There's no direction. Where was the leadership? Then in comes Dan Hurley. He has 5 years there. Year number 5, this team is in the Final Four, and the blue blood is back. The storylines of this NCAA tournament are incredible. If you're not a fan of FAU, if you're not a fan, and by the way, FAU has one of the greatest taglines ever. It's called Winning in Paradise, because they literally are in a part of Florida that is all about, I mean, the paradise, the community that they're within. So they talk about winning in paradise. They got palm trees everywhere. So I knew about FAU well before, because the wonderful leadership of FAU has been on the broadcast, athletics director Brian White. So, and he'll be on again this week. So I knew about them because they're coming into the American, and I've done a lot of stories with these 6 conferences that are coming in and their athletic leadership, including Brian White of FAU. So the Winning in Paradise thing has been on my mind and been in front of me on my desk for over a year. So you have that storyline of Winning in Paradise. You have Throw Up the U. And by the way, and I have to say this, and I could say it as a single man, there are no better dancers than Miami's dance team in the nation, in my opinion, because I respect real dancing. I'm Hispanic and Italian, and everything about that dance team is incredibly talented and awesome. And then you add in their mascot, who can dance too. And not every mascot can, dance, especially being within, the confines of what they're within. So I got to shout out the Canes for the dance team, the choreography, the mascot, Jim Larinaga. There's a lot of stuff, because I've been around Miami a lot, folks, and not just the NCAA tournament. So I definitely respect the heck out of them. And then on top of that, UConn and Dan Hurley, I feel so privileged to be able to interview him and be around him. And then Dutcher in San Diego State. He's like, people thought it was just a recruiting thing and that we were joking when we said we're going to make it here someday. And now here they are. So this world is utter insanity, and I love it. And it's in every storyline is precious. And literally any one of these 4 teams that wins is going to be a team that is on a run that a lot of people didn't expect. So it's not Alien, Predator, Requiem, whoever wins, we lose. This is whoever wins, we win, which is a really cool thing, especially in American society where a lot of people every day feel like we're all losing in America. In the NCAA tournament, whoever wins, we all kind of win in a way.
No, I agree, because we're so divided in this country, but March Madness is one of those things we could all rally together behind, no matter what school, whether it's your alma mater who's making a deep run, or just a school that you've never heard of or really don't really care much about. It could be Grand Canyon or any of these little small schools that you pick off a map and you're like, who the heck are they? But when you see a team that makes a run or just excites you or just kind of just is a unique story, it's something that the whole country can rally behind. And so as much as a lot of people get annoyed and poo-poo college basketball in the story because a lot of one-and-dones have kind of ruined the game, because it's so very hard to kind of have a cohesive unit to know who some of these star players are, because most of the powerhouses do go the one-and-done route. But a lot of these schools that are making it, as we said last week, are maybe the smaller schools who keep their players for 3 or 4 years, who have been there for a while, who have a chemistry together, who know how to play together. And you can see by the results, that seems to work better than one-and-dones. As much as you want to have the superstar talent, but a lot of those guys, like I said, they have one foot out the door. They're trying to go to the NBA draft, where a lot of these guys who are staying the 3-4 years and are upperclassmen, you can see right away how mature they are out there, and they know how to play basketball much better. They're fundamentally sound. They can actually shoot the ball. They don't just try to dunk the ball and get layups or easy shots like that. They're able to shoot the ball. They play defense. They play for each other, and that's just how basketball really should be played. So I love watching that. And Miami's always been a powerhouse for football. It's the U and all the superstar talent that you've had in college football over those years. And then baseball, they've always been good at college baseball, but really basketball has been an afterthought. So what a run by Jim Larinaga in the ACC, and then UConn, great to see them being a powerhouse again. interesting thing with Miami and San Diego State, they both were 5 seeds in their respective regions, in the Midwest for Miami and in the South region for San Diego State. There were teams, everyone's looking for it, and usually it's a 12 seed, knocking off a 5 seed. There were people, not in our brackets, but there were people who had Charleston knocking off San Diego State, a 12 seed over a 5 seed in the first round. Now look how far they've made it. They're in the Final Four. There were people, not many, who had Degrassi, Glorious, my fellow Jewish rapper.
Drake!
Who would have thought we had a Drake reference this far in the tournament? That Drake was going to knock off Miami. Not to be. And Miami's won a hell of a run. So, they dominated Indiana. They were able to knock off the Houston Cougars. And this amazing run beat Texas. And Texas, I want to give props to that university. Their interim head coach, he's going to sign a long-term contract. He deservedly so. I know you talked about this the other day on
Rodney
your show.
Terry, baby.
He deserved it. He earned it. And I'm glad they stripped the interim tag off it. He's a full-time head coach for the Texas Longhorns. He came in during the season and did a heck of a job. And they went on an amazing run, and they almost were able to knock off Miami to get to Houston, Texas, to their home state to play the Final Four. So I'm glad that he deservedly so got his contract, will be the full-time head coach for them. But it's just been a wild ride. And then Alabama, I'm still shocked. Alabama, they really look like, out of anyone, if not Houston, because Houston had a lot of injuries, people were still somewhat suspect about Houston. Alabama seemed like they were going to be the most talented team in this whole tournament. And for them to get knocked off in this tournament by San Diego State, that was a surprise. And they had all that firepower offensively, and it was shocking to see that Alabama and Houston, never mind both didn't make it, that neither of those two powerhouses, number 1 seeds, made it, because it looked like for sure they were on a collision course. I had them and you had them to play each other in the national championship game. And at least one of them was going to get to the Final Four, and now neither have. So it's wild. And Creighton made a nice long run, as I thought they would. The Blue Jays make these long runs, and they seem to do a great job in the tournament. And then who could have predicted, of course, earlier in the tournament, Princeton, the Ivy League school, with the crazy run that they went on against the Sweet 16, knocking off Arizona. That was amazing. And of course, another number 16 seed beat a number 1 seed in Fairleigh Dickinson, small school out of New Jersey, just like last year with St. Peter's. So there's so many Cinderella stories, so many upsets. It's really been a heck of a tournament. And I don't know, anyone who just picked chalk and went with 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four, you were sorely mistaken, because this was not the year for that. It was incredible. Even that the other night when Gonzaga UCLA, I mentioned earlier, that Sweet 16 game, that was a heck of a game that went back and forth and really looked like at the very end Gonzaga was going to lose, and then got wide open from the top of the key. That 3-pointer he drained, just like a couple years ago when Gonzaga knocked off UCLA in another classic. I'd sign up for 10 more of those classic tournament games. So it's just been a heck of a ride. I hope it keeps going. I hope we have an exciting Final Four in Houston, Texas this weekend, and the national championship game. It's anyone's game, and so I'm excited. Between opening day with my first love of Major League Baseball coming out in just 2 days is opening day for my Yankees, and Anthony Volpe, their top prospect, made the team along with Aaron Judge and all that great stuff. So we got opening day for baseball, college basketball national championship, Final Four coming up, and then basketball and hockey, the pros getting ready for the playoffs pretty soon. It's pretty special. The only thing I do kind of miss from back when we were going to school, even in college, everyone, is I really loved when Monday's national championship game was always Monday opening day for Major League Baseball, because that was an amazing day for a sports fan. You had opening day for baseball and all the excitement and the hope, even if your team stunk at baseball and had no chance to make the playoffs or the World Series. You had opening day during the whole day from like 1 o'clock all the way through the end of the night, and then at around 9 o'clock you had the national championship game for college basketball. Baseball now has moved their opening day to Thursday. I guess they don't want to compete with the national championship game. But that's the only thing I kind of missed from back when we were younger, is that I know I sound old. I'm like, back in our day, we used to walk through 10 miles of snow to get to school, all that stuff. But I miss that, but you still can't beat this tournament. But no. I don't know how next year will go when we pick our brackets, but it's going to be a very interesting how we pick brackets from here on out, because really it's chaos, and it's very hard to know who should be favored in any of these games. As much as we're trying to give the audience a decent expert opinion, there's only so much anyone knows at this point, because really these teams, they seem to come out of nowhere and they get it done. But I'm very excited for these teams. Right now, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I would say that with Florida Atlantic, I'll have them slightly beating San Diego State. I would have in the Miami-UConn game, I'd give UConn a slight advantage to win that game. And then I think it's going to be UConn and Florida Atlantic. I would have UConn definitely be the favorite to win that out of the 4 teams left to win the national title. But as I said, if you want the chaos, I would love to see the Cinderella little edge of that could Florida Atlantic pull off the upset and win it all. But I know there's the skeptical, cynic fans who will say this will be TCU and Georgia, the national championship game for college football, like we had earlier in the year, all over again, where people thought, oh, TCU has a chance. And then what happened? Georgia just laid the hammer down, destroyed them by like 58 points. So I hope if we get that national championship game, if Florida Atlantic could survive to get the championship game on Monday and faces a powerhouse like Miami or UConn, I think UConn, hopefully it would be a close game, very competitive game, and maybe even an upset. You hope you don't get a massive blowout where people are like, oh, they didn't deserve to be there. Because these teams, all 4 of them, definitely deserve to be here. They've proven it with their track record in this tournament, beating all these powerhouses that no one thought they could. But if I had to pick right now, I'm going to go with Florida Atlantic over San Diego State, UConn over Miami, and I'll go with UConn winning the whole thing over Florida Atlantic. But my heart of an underdog, heart of Rudy and Rocky, and I always root for the underdog. I always can identify them. I would still love to see Florida Atlantic to cut down the nets and take this whole thing home.
Yeah, I mean, we look at this, and as you are all seeing on your board, as I put my cursive out there, and by the way, bring cursive back into schools. Don't let people write block letters and look like idiots. So, cursive
beside your name. You got to be able to do that. If you can't sign your name on a check, there's a problem. You at least got to know it for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, learn just folks. Let's make school again. Could we do that? Because that would be an amazing thing to do if we could make school again. So, I putting up on the board right now as you're all watching on Facebook.com and YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT the congratulations to these schools, as we congratulate from the South region San Diego State, from the Midwest region Miami, and as we look in the West region, and we give a congratulations here to UConn, who made it through the bracket where the number 1 overall seed was taken down, or pardon me, the number 1 seed, who was a reigning national champion, Kansas, was taken down by Arkansas, and then UConn blew out Arkansas. So to see Arkansas take down the reigning national champion, and then to see how UConn easily handled them, was just insanity. So congratulations to UConn from the West bracket. And I say insanity because, like, that Arkansas game, fight to the bitter end, 72-71, you beat Kansas, you're feeling good, and people are like, are they going to do it? Are they going to make it? Are they going to win the championship? And UConn took care of them like it was a game in, the end of November, early December, where they're warming up and playing these non-conference schedule games. So
that's what they did against Gonzaga. And yeah. So the Elite Eight, I thought Gonzaga, they had a good chance to win. I thought they'd at least be competitive. It was non-competitive. It was almost a 30-point victory. They laid the hammer, the smackdown on Gonzaga. That's a very solid team. Year after year, they show their greatness. Mark Few has that team ready to play and challenge for a national title. And what did UConn do? UConn just slapped them around the court and easily dominated them. So that was one of the biggest shocks of the weekend. Yeah,
we look at this here. So once again, congratulations of the South bracket to San Diego State here on your screen. Congratulations in the Midwest bracket to Miami, a.k.a. the U. A big congratulations to them. Congratulations in the mid, and so that's that being in the Midwest. And congratulations in the West bracket to the UConn Huskies and the work that they did here. An incredible season for the UConn Huskies, as Dan Hurley and his basketball family got to celebrate on the court, which was really amazing and fun to see. So a big time congratulations to the UConn Huskies and all the work that they put forward here. I mean, this has been such an amazing tournament. So many amazing things have happened. And now, whoever wins, like I said, we win. We get to see such a wonderful setup here to the final stage of the NCAA tournament. So I'm incredibly excited, very much looking forward to it. So a shout out to UConn. I'm giving my
yeah. What do you think? Who's winning the 2 semifinals? Yeah. And who's going to win that national title?
Well, as I build up to that, so to the East bracket too, I want to give once again another massive, as they're on screen right now, another massive congratulations to Florida Atlantic, who made a ton of history for their school this year. Much love to FAU. in Conference USA. So with that being said, Ross picked his, and here's some interesting storylines. FAU, Miami, down in Florida, fantastic beach weather. San Diego State, the beaches of the West Coast, and the most beautiful, exciting, warm, balmy, sunny beach of them all, Storrs, Connecticut.
Where is it cold? It might be warmer than Syracuse where it snows every day, but it's definitely not the warm beaches. As you mentioned, San Diego and Florida Atlantic, Miami. Beautiful places in California and Florida. Beautiful warm year-round. It is definitely not warm year-round in Connecticut.
So you have all of that. Those are your storyline. The cool thing about this, really cool thing about this, is if FAU were to win and Miami were to win, then the state of Florida has won. In 100% of the championship game will be in Florida, and Florida will have a champion, a national champion, no matter what, if FAU and Miami advance. Now,
It'll be a pretty cool moment. The other thing I want to quickly mention with the UConn thing, what's crazy is I think after like 16 years of at least making the Final Four, UConn men's team is going to the Final Four. The women's team that year after year competes and wins a national title or gets close to it, they are not going to the Final Four. Gino Auriemma, the legendary coach of the women's team for Connecticut, I think it's the first time in 16 years, because the one year they got knocked off because of the pandemic in 2020, they are not going to the Final Four. And Dawn Staley's, shout out to her with South Carolina, they seem to dominate year after year lately. Yeah. And Dawn Staley looks like she might win another national title on the women's side of March Madness. But that's what's kind of crazy is the UConn men's team, they're on the come up and they're in the Final Four, might win the national title out of all the 4 teams. They're probably favored to win it. And the women's team that dominates year after year, they're not even going to be in the Final Four. So that's going to be a rare occurrence. The men's team is on an all-time high. The women's team that's been so great, they're coming down a bit.
Yeah. Ohio State, a shout-out to the Buckeyes. The Ohio State Buckeyes women's basketball team defeated the UConn Huskies and Gino Auriemma, 3-seed over a 2-seed by 12, 73-61, to set up what we have here for, the women's side of things. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'll get to my picks in just a second. I'm doing a Ryan Seacrest on the way to my picks.
Yeah,
so
I don't mind. It's like stalling for you. You're trying to log it. Well, you're trying to build the suspense. I don't mind at all. We can get the drum roll, go, and right now you're painting a picture like a good broadcaster does. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, so what we have right now, thank you. So the Final Four, I do want to make note of this on the women's side. And this is kind of cool, too. I've been to Houston, I've been to Dallas, and the Final Four for women and men are both in the state of Texas, which will hopefully, I know that Dallas and Houston are not next door neighbors, but hopefully this could maybe create a world where you'll go to the women's tournament and then go to the men's. So maybe, just maybe, you can give love and respect to both the men's and women's NCAA tournaments with them both being in the same state. For the
100%, yeah, I totally agree, because I think a lot of times the women's game gets shortchanged. They are such talented athletes. They play really well. They usually are. You talk about fundamentally sound. Usually on the women's side of the game, they seem to play better than the men's side. They usually shoot better. They play harder defense, and they're a heck of so many squads that work their butts off that don't get the credit that they deserve. And until about a year ago, the NCAA for women were not even allowed to use the term March Madness for college basketball, which is ridiculous and was unfair. And then which is crazy to think that. And then they even got embarrassed because a couple years ago, one of the female athletes showed the horrible food they were given, the horrible gym that they were given to work out in compared to the men's game for the Final Four. It was an embarrassment that the men got like gourmet food, the best workout facilities, and the women got scraps. They got terrible amenities. And then it was crazy again that they could not even use the term March Madness until last year. So I hope that we start getting it more fair, and it should be as equal as it should as it could be, because both sides deserve their credit. The women's game is excellent. The men's game is excellent. So it should not be that we give all the money, all the resources to the men's side and favor them over the women's side, because it's blatantly unfair. So I get annoyed when I see that. And as a girl dad, I have a little daughter who's going to be 6 years old in a few months. I want her to know that she could do anything she wants in this world. And it sickens me when I see how much they give to the men's side, and the women's side, it's getting a little bit better, usually gets shortchanged compared to the men's side.
Yeah, and that's a drum that I've banged here for a long time. And like I said, with them both being down in the state of Texas, hopefully some of you can make it to both. We have the Final Four set up in Dallas for NCAA Division I women's basketball. That Final Four is going to play on March 31st. That is this Friday. And so we will see on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. We'll have LSU, the 3 seed, take on number 1 seeded Virginia Tech. And then, as Ross mentioned, Dawn Staley and her team, South Carolina, number 1 seed, will take on number 2 seed, a team that has done phenomenal this year and has put themselves on the national map, Iowa. And that game will happen at approximately 9 p.m. Eastern Time, probably a few minutes after on ESPN. And then the national championship of whoever wins, LSU, Virginia Tech, and South Carolina, Iowa, will play for the championship for women's Division I basketball. That'll happen on April 2nd in Dallas, Texas. And then on the men's side of things, as we talk about the men's brackets, we will see that Final Four playing on the days that are, kind of right there dancing with it. So you have March 31st, April 2nd for the women. You have April 1st, April 3rd for the men. So on Saturday in Houston, Texas, on April 1st, we will see the first game being at 6:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Number 5 seed San Diego State taking on number 9 seed FAU. And to follow at approximately 8:49 p.m. Eastern Time, the 5 seed Miami Hurricanes going up against the 4 seeded UConn. And for people that don't know their history, that game is an old Big East game, Miami and UConn. So shout out to the Big East for well representing themselves, and shout out to Big East history for Miami UConn. The national championship for the men's side in Division I will be played on Monday, April 3rd. And I, in true Seacrest fashion, will be giving you my picks for the men's and women's Final Four champions. I will be giving you my Final Four winners and championship winners right after this.
Oh, my word. Unbelievable. I knew you were going to
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Folks, we are back, and I am so happy to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Love being here with you on the broadcast, youtube.com, facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. Before the break, I told you that I would be giving you my final four champions that will go on to the championship game for men's and women's basketball in Division I, and that I would give you my champion as well. And I am going to do that. But before, I want to let you know that yogurt has interesting taste and a fantastic smell. I also want to and they don't have a fantastic smell. I'm kidding. Yogurt smells like booty, and I don't like it at all. I also want to let you know that I today might go see a movie. I would like to let you know that Twix has a new cookie dough flavor that's a fantastic flavor. And with other mindless information in my greatest impression of Ryan Seacrest, as I continue to pull it out, drag 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 it out, and simply say the word drag it out, this, for those of you that have caught on to being facetious, sarcastic, and having fun, is my impression of how long it takes Ryan Seacrest, because he won't just go to commercial break. He will talk to you about things that make no sense. I know you want to know the three contestants that are going to be here inside of American Idol, and I want you to not only know those three contestants, but to know who our champion's going to be. But before that happens, I want to tell you about the beauty of water and how water can change your life. I also want to let you know that I had a pet bunny named Steve when I was 6 years old, and Steve and I used to go on bike rides together, and he would sit in the little bushel basket that I had in the front of my bike. That is what Ryan Seacrest would give you. So with that being said, I'm going to give you my picks in true Seacrest fashion. And I'll do that right after that. No, I'm kidding. So my picks for the NCAA Division I, he would have done that. He would have come back from commercial, gone back to commercial. That's a true Seacrest. So,
You would have got lots of hate mail if you
yeah.
had done that. You pulled the rug from out waste more time. Those threats are coming. You better watch it.
Nothing. The only thing better than pulling the rug once is pulling it twice. So, with that being said, here in the Final Four, I'm going to go with South Carolina over Iowa. As much as I'm excited for Iowa and the Hawkeyes and the game that they've played throughout this tournament has just been a true amazing run, I'm going to go with South Carolina. And, I think on the other side, I'm going to go with Virginia Tech in that matchup, South Carolina, Virginia Tech in the championship game, and I'm going to give Staley another chip, and I'm going to go with the Gamecocks to win the championship, South Carolina over Virginia Tech for...
The new powerhouse in college basketball. I just want to quickly mention with Iowa, that game that star player had the other day was amazing. She had like 40 points, and I think had like a triple-double. It was crazy. And then she did it in the honor of like the associate head coaches. What was it? The mother or one of her parents had passed away the morning of that game. And then she had that amazing game and dedicated it to the coach.
Yeah, and so, to know the story, the history, the family, the love, the connection. It's a when you watch these games, and if you live in the world that Ross and I get to live in, when you know the coaches, you know the players, you know the programs, it's different, and it feels different. Everything about it is unique. Like Jim Larinaga, that is so different for me, and that experience, I got a chill when I talked about it. It's such a different thing, and the connection. Here's the cool thing. So UConn I covered in the American, then UConn went back to the Big East, and I was at the Big East tournament last year in Madison Square Garden. So there's that connection to Dan Hurley and his program. Jim Larinaga, I've covered his program since Syracuse joined the ACC a decade ago. And so Jim Larinaga, I had interviewed him before the NCAA tournament when they were in Greensboro, and I was sitting, right there. I mean, he's sitting up on the dais, and I'm sitting in the first couple rows. So that story's interesting because I've spoken with Jim Larinaga so many times over the last many years. And then with FAU, having Brian White, their AD, on and talking about their move from Conference USA this July 2023 to become an American Athletic Conference school, I've gotten to tell the story of FAU before Dusty May and his team told the story of FAU. And that's been an honor. And then San Diego State, my connection to that is Syracuse played them on an aircraft carrier years ago. And so everything about this tournament and about this Final Four on the men's side has an interesting connection to my life. And so any one of these teams that wins is going to be a genuinely special kind of cool moment. And what I love seeing is that Jim Larinaga has reached out to my dad through his chest and into his heart. And my dad said yesterday when he came on the show that he wants to see Jim Larinaga win it all. And the really, really cool history that my dad and I have experienced is that we got to see Miami and UConn in the NCAA tournament this year in Albany. Of any game that we could have seen, of all the games going on in the entire country, there were games in Albany. My dad and I have never been to an NCAA tournament game where we got to sit together. And this year I had the best seat in the house next to my dad, sitting there. And I said to my dad, "This is cool. Is it fun? Are you having a good time?" And he said, "Of course I am. I'm with my son." Fast forward in the tournament, and I called up my dad and I said, "Dad, if Miami wins today," because UConn already had won, I said, "If Miami wins today, you and I, when we made history in our relationship as father and son and as friends, to go to Albany and see an NCAA tournament game, let alone two, together for the first time ever. With all the tournament games that I've covered and all the places I've been, we've never got to sit together and experience it together like that. To have that history, and on top of that history, the two teams that advanced out of Albany to the Sweet 16 are going to be 50% of the Final Four, that would be incredible." And then it happened. And then I told my dad, "With all due respect, Pop, you and I are 100% when it comes to sending teams to the Final Four." So as I look at this Final Four, I'm going to pick FAU to defeat San Diego State. Although I appreciate what Brian Dutcher has done with San Diego State and his team. They have done so very well in this tournament, and their respect has been earned, hopefully by many, definitely by me. FAU, I'm going to pick them over San Diego State in a tough game. I just feel like FAU's on a run. And between Miami and UConn, Miami can score, Miami can run, Miami can go out there and do a lot of amazing things. Miami took down an incredible team, and Jim Larinaga and this team have been so good. And on UConn's side, they're blowing teams out, winning by double figures. These look like when you look at the end score of these games, like I said, it looks like they're playing a November, early December game in their non-conference. The UConn Huskies and the Miami Hurricanes are two of the hottest teams in America going up against each other. And I think UConn can win it all. I really do. I really do. And this Final Four, to me, I'm going to go with FAU on one side. And as much as UConn has put all of this work in and done an incredible job, and they have been tremendous it is so hard to not pick Miami. I'm going to go with...
like the Will Smith song, Going to Miami, back in the day.
So my thing is, as I continue my Seacrest, I'm going to go with Miami over UConn in a game that might go to overtime. And it's going to be FAU versus Miami. And Jim Larinaga is going to bring a championship to Miami. And it pains me to make this pick. I am emotional. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I genuinely have tears in my eyes right now because every one of these programs deserves it. And every one of these coaches deserves it. And every one of these student athletes deserves it. And their staff. San Diego State has made such an amazing run, and they've gotten better. FAU was given no chance, and they have been incredible. Miami and Jim Larinaga, some people thought Jim Larinaga was going to retire. I want Jim Larinaga to coach for another 10 years. UConn and Dan Hurley have been a powerhouse, and they've been the biggest baddie of the tournament when it comes to the fact that they're not beating you, they're pulverizing. And so any one of these teams that I pick means that I don't pick the other team that I feel like is just as deserving, and it's so hard. But I'm going to say FAU and Miami, and I might have to go down to Florida and watch this thing in real time because I think the state of Florida, no matter what, is going to win a national championship this year. But I'm going to lean on Jim Larinaga for this one. As much as I think that UConn can win it all, and I want to put that on my audio and video, I believe UConn can win it all, and I'm not going to be surprised if they don't. But I'm going to go with, I really believe that it could be FAU UConn, but I'm going to say FAU Miami. Miami wins a national championship.
Battle of Florida in the championship game would be pretty impressive. One way or another, Sunshine State would come out on top. We both have FAU, Florida Atlantic, winning their semifinal against San Diego State and going to the national championship game on Monday, so that'll be exciting either way because then you have a David versus Goliath matchup because I know a lot of people are thinking that the two smallest schools, San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, they're just the appetizer for the main course because a lot of people are saying that Miami, ACC powerhouse, and UConn, a powerhouse in the Big East, that's going to be the big matchup. Whoever wins that is definitely going to win the national championship game. Not necessarily. Whoever wins that's going to go to the championship game. I know it's going to be put as whoever wins the other semifinal between San Diego State and Florida Atlantic is going to be the David, and it's going to be Goliath, whoever wins Miami versus UConn. But I would not put anything past this tournament just because UConn is blowing everyone out. That's why I'm going with UConn. And I think they have it out of all the four teams, they have the chance to pull this out because they are, as you were saying, pulverizing teams, and they seem to be the most complete red-hot team that is just trouncing teams. Like, they're not even standing in their way. But if they can find a way to beat Miami, which is a big if, because, as you said, Miami very well could pull this off, and I know you kind of would love to see Miami do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the other side has no chance because they're the smallest schools. As you've seen in this tournament, you could be the smaller little engine that could, and you can find a way to knock off the Goliath, and it's happened time and time again. So we're doing that at our own peril. The people who are saying, because I've seen a lot of the stuff on ESPN and all over national media, thinking that's just the appetizer. The main course is Miami versus UConn. For some people, it might be, but I still would love to see that national championship game. Whoever wins that San Diego State, Florida Atlantic game, which we both have FAU win it, that they scare the heck out of the Miami UConn winner and might maybe find a way to come out on top and to actually have a Cinderella team win the championship at day's end. I think that'd be the coolest thing for this whole tournament, and it would really just get you really pumped for next season already. It couldn't come soon enough to have November kick off the new season of college basketball and have a tournament come back in March because that'd be an incredible story if Cinderella team didn't only just make the Final Four but actually won the national title. And Jim Larinaga, I think he was also the head coach for George Mason when they went on their incredible run. I think it was in 2006. I was a sophomore at Merriwood, a sophomore in college. And he took that school that no one expected to go as far as they did. He took them to the Final Four, and now 17 years later, he has a powerhouse like Miami back on top in their first ever Final Four. So what an amazing run that he's been. 17 years apart, almost 2 full decades. He went with a little underdog team like George Mason, took them to the Final Four promised land, and now he has Miami back to where most people who go to Miami think they should always be on top in all sports, into the Final Four for the first time, and now he might be able to win the national title. Who knows? And it's, as you were saying, he'd be the oldest head coach to win the national title. Age is just a number, and I truly believe that. I know people like to giggle at that. If you have the heart, the spirit, the tenacity, the excitement, the enthusiasm, who cares how old you are? Because there are younger people who are in their late 20s, early 30s who could act super old, and they have old people who act super young. And, Pete Carroll in the NFL, he runs around the sidelines like he's still a college coach and like he's 30 years old, and he's the oldest NFL head coach right now. So it really doesn't matter. Age is, in my mind, age is truly a number. It's how you carry yourself, how you act, what kind of spirit you still have in you. Because, for all you know, this guy could coach another 10 years because he really seems to have the enthusiasm to do it. Maybe it would be cool to see him go out on top if you can win a national title at this point to end your career that way, an illustrious Hall of Fame career. But it would also be great if he could prove everyone wrong and keep coaching for another decade. So either way, I think we, as you said, it's definitely not whoever wins, we lose. It's whoever wins, we win. Because whether it be San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, Miami, or UConn, one of these four teams who wins it, they're all incredible stories. They all deserve it. All the coaches, all the players, they've all the fan bases. It's been an incredible ride. I'm going with Florida Atlantic like you in the national title game. You're going with against Miami. I'm going with UConn against them because UConn is dominating everyone. And we will see. Right now, I'm going to pick UConn to win the championship game. You're going with Miami. I think you can't lose either way. I think it's going to be an incredible next 2 days, Saturday and Monday at the Final Four in Houston, Texas. I think it would be amazing. I think it would be incredible if you got down to Florida and got to hang out with some of your friends and see an incredible ride for those two teams that are going at it in the Final Four. And if they face off on Monday night, or all Florida national championship game, could be better than that. I think that'd be pretty awesome as well. So either way, I think we should just kick back, enjoy it, make the most of it, have fun, because we're going to have a long wait until more college basketball comes. And in many people's eyes, including mine, I think this tournament is by far, to me, a lot more exciting than watching a typical NBA game. Even NBA playoffs, as exciting as that could be, a lot of that can get boring after a while when you see like Golden State Warriors or some of the same teams win it year after year. I think March Madness has so much more appeal because there's so much just raw enthusiasm and unpredictability that you don't get in the NBA and pro basketball. So college basketball, you got to enjoy it while you can, because pro basketball, it's a different beast, because it's a great game, but it's not usually played the same way, and you usually have the same or similar 5 teams compete for a championship year after year, where certain teams have no chance, even if they get to playoffs, have no chance to win it all. Where in college basketball, almost every team that gets in, now even the 16 seeds, the bottom seeds, they all have a chance.
Yeah. I mean, this tournament has been fantastic this year, and I said going into the tournament that it was wide open. It did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. It has been absolutely, positively incredible, and I am so happy, so excited for all the 4 teams that have made it here to San Diego State of the South region, to Miami of the Midwest region, to UConn of the West region, and to FAU of the East region, who did it through Madison Square Garden. Awesome venues, awesome time, awesome people, awesome experience. Shout out to Kansas City, Missouri, to Las Vegas, Nevada, to Louisville, Kentucky, to New York with Madison Square Garden, and now to Houston, Texas coming up. Great venues, and I'm ready for this. I'm excited for this. It's going to be a wonderful tournament. And 17 years ago to the day. This is how cool God is. To the day, 17 years ago. 2005 and 6 season, 17 years ago, Jim Larinaga led George Mason to their only Final Four appearance, and doing that back on March 26th, 2006, and then 17 years later, on March 26th, 2023, he brings Miami to their first ever Final Four, putting him in a very, very tiny group of coaches that have led not one, but 2 teams from 2 different schools to the Final Four. And mind you, just so you know this, put this in your little pocket for later, the record for George Mason that year, 27-8. Very close to the current record of the Miami Hurricanes of 29-7. With that being said, Ross and I are here to continue with the Final Four and the drive in this last piece of the broadcast we do every single Tuesday, called The Ingredients to Success. The Ingredients to Success is proudly presented to you exclusively by Avicolli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. Down the road from Liverpool High School, within walking distance of Liverpool High School, Every month we're there with the Warriors of Liverpool telling their stories. And on 7839 Oswego Road, which is the exact location on that corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, you have the opportunity to bond with the community with fantastic service, food, and a neighbor that has been here for decades. The ingredients to success come to you from Avicolli's. I pick the topic each week and we discuss it. Ross, we've talked about the teams that we thought would be in. If you could sit in front of all four schools right now, FAU, San Diego State, Miami, and UConn, what would be your ingredients to success to tell each of those schools in making it to the national championship? If you could give them any words of advice, what would you say?
Well, it's quite an honor if I would get that chance. I do want to quickly throw out, I actually have a final score. I didn't give you my final score. I'm going to go with UConn 73-67 over Florida Atlantic. So I'm not going with any blowout. I think UConn wins, but I think they only win by 6 points over Florida Atlantic to win that national title. What I would tell these four great teams, San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, FAU, Miami, and UConn, I would say you all have had an amazing run. You guys should be so proud of what you're doing, whether you win the whole thing at this point or you end up losing on Saturday night or Monday. Either way, you go up with you leave that gym, you leave that arena with your heads held up high, because what you did is something that so few teams and so few coaches and players will ever get a chance to be a part of. And you guys stayed together through thick and thin. There was close games. There was so many moments where you guys could have given up or you could have fallen apart. And instead, you guys bonded together and you have formed a brotherhood. You, in many ways, they're your second family. In many ways, you see those teammates more than you do your own family, because they've become that. They've become brothers and sisters to you. In the women's game, we'll include that as well. Brothers and sisters, and just an army you've created of people who have your back, I think, forever. I know that seems cliche, but I really think that, because I feel like way with some of my brothers that I played college baseball with, that if I really needed something, I can call them, I can message them, and I believe that they would have my back and that I would have their back. And I think that you form that alliance, that allegiance that will last forever, and that's more powerful than any single outcome of any one game. So it's the ultimate goal. You'd love to cut down those nets, win that championship, and be remembered forever. But in many ways, you guys have already won. You've already won in the game of life. You've already won the game of competition in sports, because you have found your family. You found your forever family, because you're going to have your own family one day, and all these other great moments happen to you. But you have created a brotherhood that cannot be, and a bond that can never be broken. You guys, when you're 50 years later, when you're elderly men and women, when you're looking back at this moment and this year and this great run to the Final Four, you will look back at these moments and you will just have a little tear in your eye and a smile, saying, "What a heck of a ride!" And I miss my brothers and sisters. And you might want to call them up, give them a Facebook message or whatever futuristic stuff we're using 50 years from now, and you're going to want to check in on them, because they have formed that bond that will not be broken. And from right now, when you're in your early 20s, all the way to your final days, your final breaths, you have that, and you will always be together. You will always be bonded for life, and that's a special thing that cannot be broken. And even if you lose in any of these games remaining, you've gone so far that nothing can ever break that bond. So either way, you guys have won already. Go out, play your hardest, play your butt off, win this championship. Go out and do your best. But either way, you've won. You've already won. Nothing can change that, and it's a great moment, because many years from now, you have grandkids, great grandkids, and you can tell them these stories that you always will bring a smile to you, and it will definitely put a smile in your heart that you've known that you've accomplished something with your brothers and sisters that can never be topped. So either way, I think it's an ultimate experience, and go out there and win it all at this point. But as I said, either way, you guys have already won.
I can't say it better myself. A fantastic quote. I got chills here in the studio, and I don't say that unless I get them. And to go back to the two biggest things I took out of what Ross just said, with the ingredients to success of advice he would give to Miami, UConn, FAU, and San Diego State if he was in the room with them, he said, quote, "You guys have already won. You found your forever family." With that being said, these are your ingredients to success. Proudly presented by Avicolli's. Support local and support Central and Upstate New York on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, Tuesday through Sunday. They are closed on Mondays. Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. As always, drink responsibly. and you will find them on for takeout, delivery, and catering at 315-622-5100. That is 315-622-5100. I'm giving you that number because I know for the women's and men's tournament, you're going to want your pizza and wings. 315-622-5100. No better words have been spoken than what we just heard from Ross and the ingredients to success. Buddy, I appreciate you. I thank you. You continue to be a wonderful public speaker and positive, moral, and value-based person who just gave incredible advice. And I hope to God somehow, some way, somewhere, these teams heard that. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me on the drive always. And thank you for being one of the greatest blessings I've ever had in my life. To call you an acquaintance is an honor. To call you a friend is a beautiful thing. To call you a best friend is truly special. To call you a brother is one of the greatest and most rewarding things in my life. So happy to know you, happy to be a friend, happy to be your best friend, but more than anything else, when I call someone my brother, that is a very, very tight group and a hard thing to get into. You were the first one in, and you'll be there forever. So thank you for everything that you bring, not only to the show, not only to sportscasting and writing, not only to the paper that you write for, and to the coaches and student athletes that you cover yourself, but what you bring to my life is beyond. And I can never thank you enough for being the true definition of a friend, a family member, a brother, and someone who always has time where everyone else would make excuses, you don't. So thank you for being one of the best things that I think God could ever make and put on this earth. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. I'm humbled. I love you, buddy, and I just appreciate our time together on the air and off the air. And let's do it. Let's hang out. Let's do some more projects together. Let's go watch a silly movie that we can make fun of and tease and get yelled at by shut your traps up during the movie because we're being too loud, making jokes about how silly the lines, the dialogue is. I'm really sorry about this, like the Alamo movie that we watched, and all the Punisher Wars on all the silly, horrible movies that we watched. But it did introduce you to Coke Zero, so that was one of the positives. Let's do that very soon, and I love you, buddy. Miss you, and have a great time watching these Final Four games in the National Championship game. Very excited about it. Thanks for having me on each and every time, and enjoy opening day for baseball. I want to bring that up as well. And one last time, I have to let the drive audience hear it one more time.
Yes.
Let's go to commercial break. No, let's not go to commercial break. I don't want you to get upset. Jimmy!
Yeah, I appreciate it as always, and I thank you. And I think that Ryan Seacrest would piss off far less people if right before he went to commercial break, he did that. So thank you for everything, buddy. I will talk with you soon. I will see you soon, and I love you. So be good, be safe. Give my niece and nephew a kiss and a hug from me. Say hello to that wonderful and beautiful wife of yours, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Take care. And coming from Ross Turetsky here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. If this conversation didn't make me want to literally get in my car and drive down to Pennsylvania and go see my buddy, I don't know what would. So, God is good. God is good, man. God is good. And we all should take the time and really, really get around our friends, our family, our loved ones in general. And it is so effortless to have Ross and to be connected. So, we start the show with Matt Langel, and I respect, and I'm so happy for him, and I love talking with him and listening and just being in the moment with him. And with Ross, this is genuinely one of my best friends, one of the greatest people that I know, and I meant what I said. God has created many, many things on this planet. It's hard for me to find a lot of things that are better than Ross. I mean, if you had him as a friend, folks, you would know what I'm saying. They don't make friends like him. They don't make people like him. He doesn't make excuses. He shows up. He makes time. He has 2 kids. He has multiple jobs. He has a wife. He has his parents. You know, he has siblings. And that man will stay up all night. He will be a father, a husband, a son, and an employee. And if I called him at 3 o'clock in the morning, he would sit on the phone with me for 3 hours. So I just want you to know that today's show and what we do all year round on Wake Up Call, we don't have just people on the show. We have good quality individuals who make differences in the world in their way. And Ross is one of the greatest, most humble, funny, inspiring, positive, beautiful minds of my life. Some of us are born with brothers, and some of our brothers choose us. And to be a chosen brother of Ross, I genuinely wouldn't need to achieve any other greater feat in my life than to be considered a brother of his. Because if he considers you a brother, then you are in a place of respect that is a very wonderful thing. It's a very big honor is what I'm trying to say. So thank you, Ross, for that. With that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com as well as YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, they jump into the archives. We've already put stuff in from this week, and we're going to put more in today, including my conversation with Matt Langel and Ross Turetsky. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you have to do on any one of your podcast platforms, we have so many of them, and by the grace of God, I am so very thankful that these companies have allowed us the opportunity to share our stories in so many different places. You can find us on any one of these avenues by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on any one of those outlets. Download us, save us, subscribe to us, follow us. Thank you for the support that everybody's given already. A big shout out to our Central and Upstate New York partners. I have so much love and respect and appreciation for you all, and I can't thank you enough for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of your story. And that is Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, Canine Camp, Dog Daycare, Avicolli's, PB&J's Lunchbox, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, as well as Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, 317 at Montgomery Street, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Chick-fil-A Watertown, and we are so proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your future Dolphins and alumni. So every second and fourth Wednesday of each month, we bring you the Dolphin Dive. Every first and third Wednesday of each month, we bring you AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. So make sure you connect with us with all of those. They happen in Dolphin time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Then they jump into the archive, and you can find them on our Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, as well as by subscribing to our YouTube channel on youtube.com /wakeupcalldt. For more information on your Dolphins, go to LeMoyneDolphins.com. And a big shout out to men's and women's tennis, as well as men's and women's lacrosse. All these games that are going on, men's and women's golf that's happening here. There's a lot of great moments, baseball, softball. Lemoyne has so many great things happening, and I'm excited to be bringing you those stories coming up here where sports meets life. right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're also proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. The Bobcats come to you every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora in our exclusive content with their teams, their men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, baseball team in its inaugural season, and more, including esports. We are so honored to have the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse here with us to share in their amazing stories, their amazing student athletes and coaches. You can find out all of our content with the Bobcats by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel and subscribe there to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. For all of our content, search Bobcat Buzz on our YouTube channel. Once again, that's youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. When you get there, search Bobcat Buzz. And from there, you can also get more information on your Bobcats by going to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With all that being said, here on the broadcast, I want to thank you for being a part of the show where sports meets life. And I want to once again thank my incredible guest, Matt Langel, the Colgate Raiders men's basketball head coach, as well as Ross Turetsky, my co-host for The Drive, and so much more, driving you through this journey and road to the championship game and giving you our picks for the men's and women's Division I NCAA Tournament Final Four that's going to be coming up this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. The women on Friday and Sunday, the men on Saturday and Monday. And a big thanks to Avicolli's for all the work that you do in our community and for being our exclusive home for our Liverpool Warriors broadcast that we do on site, on location every single month. Thanks to Avicolli's. Head there for lunch today. Let them know the Wake Up Call sent you to 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. I appreciate y'all. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. We got some great stuff coming up here with Michaela Holmes, our newest guest for The Light Between Us, exclusive content from Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, speaking on faith, goodness, positivity, family, community, and of course the Chick-fil-A wonderful, wonderful staff in Cicero and Clay. So happy to have Michaela Holmes going to be joining me today for The Light Between Us. Stay close to our social media and YouTube channel for that special. And I also want to let you know there's going to be more coming up from the historical week that we're having and month that we've had with Mother's Cupboard on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, with the unveiling of the Cuse McMother sandwich. I want to thank all of you that went out and got it. Please continue to do so. My spin on the breakfast sandwich, bacon, egg, and cheese inside a French toast. You can cut it up and have it with syrup like Rob Drummond did yesterday, or you can pick it up and eat it like a sandwich like I did. I want to give a special heartfelt thank you to Casey Brown, CBA Syracuse football coach, as well as Rob Drummond, JD, Syracuse NFL and CFL alum, my parents, owner Pete Green, my buddy Zach Warner, who's been with me in fantasy football forever since I've come back to New York. Thank you all for being there and for celebrating one of the greatest moments and honors of my life. I have a very special message to share with you, and I'll be putting that up today. God bless, no stress, do your best. And tonight around 9 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll put up the information on our social media. I will be back on Chris Heidel's Herb FM radio sports show live in picture and in voice to share with you my thoughts on the NCAA tournament. I'll talk with you all soon. God bless, no stress, do your best, and have a great day. The sun's shining, and even when it's not, let it shine from the inside out.